Before America fell in love with sitcom families like the Tanners or the Connors, there was All in the Family, and at the center of it all was Edith Bunker, the kind-hearted, patient wife of Archie Bunker. But when Jean Stapleton, the actress behind Edith, decided to leave the show, fans were devastated. Why would she walk away from one of TV's most beloved roles? And even more shocking, why did the writers kill off Edith instead of letting her live on? In this video, we uncover Jean Stapleton's heartbreaking truth about why Edith was gone forever. When All in the Family first aired in 1971, no one expected it to change television forever. The show tackled racism, politics, and family struggles, topics that were almost taboo for sitcoms. But at its heart stood Edith Bunker, a gentlewoman whose kindness balanced Archie's harshness. Jean Stapleton portrayed her with warmth, humor, and a quiet strength that audiences adored. What many didn't know was that Jean shaped much of Edith's personality herself. She fought to make Edith more than a simple housewife. To her, Edith represented love in its purest form, and she played her that way every single episode. Off-screen, Jean Stapleton wasn't much like Edith. She was highly educated, outspoken, and deeply committed to her craft. While Archie ranted about the world on screen, Jean quietly used her influence behind the scenes to push for meaningful dialogue. But as the years went on, the intense filming schedule took a toll. Jean often worked long hours, memorizing endless pages of dialogue. Though she loved the cast, she felt trapped in Edith's world. She once said, "I adore Edith, but she's not me." It was the first sign that Jean was starting to feel the pressure of playing America's favorite housewife. By the mid-1970s, All in the Family was unstoppable. It won countless Emmys, broke cultural barriers, and made stars. Out of its cast, Carol O'Connor and Jean Stapleton became household names. But with success came exhaustion. Jean noticed the scripts were becoming repetitive, the jokes predictable. She had given everything to Edith, but the show wanted more. Producers begged her to stay, promising fresh storylines. Yet Jean had begun yearning for something else, artistic freedom. Still, she stayed out of loyalty to her co-stars and the fans who adored Edith, but deep down, she knew her time was coming to an end. By the late 70s, Jean finally had the difficult conversation with producer Norman Lear. She told him she wanted to leave the show. Norman tried to convince her otherwise. Edith was the heart of All in the Family. Without her, he feared the show would collapse, but Jean stood firm. "It's time for me to move on," she said gently. Lear respected her choice, but he also knew that Edith's absence couldn't be ignored. He faced a painful decision, to either write her off quietly or to end her story in a way that felt final and real. When Archie Bunker's Place premiered, the spin-off that continued Archie's story, viewers expected to see Edith alongside him, but she was gone. The writers revealed in a heartbreaking episode that Edith had passed away from a stroke. Fans were stunned. Millions cried as Archie sat in his empty house, holding her slipper and breaking down for the first time. It was one of TV's most emotional moments. But behind that grief was Jean's real-life choice, a decision she made not out of anger but of deep respect for the character she loved so much. Jean later explained her decision in interviews. "It wasn't right for Edith to just disappear," she said. "She had too much love, too much meaning. Killing Edith wasn't about shock value, it was about closure." Jean didn't want Edith replaced or forgotten in the background. She wanted audiences to feel her absence just as Archie would. For her, Edith's death symbolized the end of an era, both in the show and in American television. It forced viewers to confront loss, just as real families did every day. It was painful, but honest. Carol O'Connor, who played Archie, took Edith's departure hard. Off-screen, he and Jean shared a deep friendship built on trust and mutual respect. When she told him she was leaving, Carol was devastated. "Archie without Edith," he said. "That's like a song with no melody." During the emotional Edith's death episode, Carol struggled to hold back tears. Not just as Archie, but as Carol himself saying goodbye to his friend. He later admitted it was one of the hardest performances of his career. Jean gave Archie his soul, he said. Without her, the world felt empty. After leaving All in the Family, Jean Stapleton focused on theater and smaller projects. She found joy in returning to her stage roots. But she stayed away from sitcoms, saying she didn't want to repeat the magic of Edith. Fans continued to write her letters for decades, thanking her for playing the most genuine wife and mother on TV. Jean never forgot them. Yet she always reminded people, "I'm not Edith. I only played her." Still, she carried Edith's compassion in her heart. For her, the character's death wasn't a tragedy. It was a graceful farewell. Even decades later, Edith Bunker remains one of television's most beloved characters. Her voice, her kindness, her innocence, all became symbols of an America that was learning to love despite its differences. His performance showed that quiet strength could change hearts. Modern actors still study her scenes for their authenticity, and every rerun of All in the Family reminds audiences of a woman who made millions laugh and cry. Jean once said, "Edith taught people how to love through laughter," and that's exactly what she did, right until the very end. Before her passing in 2013, Jean reflected on her time as Edith one last time. "People ask why I let her die," she said softly. "But Edith didn't die. She lives wherever people remember her." It was a fitting tribute to a role that transcended television. Jean had given Edith a soul, and that soul continues to comfort generations. In her final interviews, she smiled and said, "I didn't kill Edith. I just let her rest." And in that moment, fans finally understood. Edith Bunker wasn't gone. She had simply gone home.